Redfin is predicting home prices to drop by the end of 2024. Now, they're not expecting home prices to completely collapse or the bottom to fall out of the housing market, but they are expecting prices to come down by around 1% by the end of 2024. And this would be the first year over year decline in home prices since 2012. So, a pretty significant step for home prices if this prediction comes true. Now, Redfin doesn't know everything. They can't predict the future, but they do have a good amount of data to work off of, and they have agents that work for them in their company. So they get the boots on the ground from the agents hearing about what's happening in the real market between buyers and sellers. And then they also have a lot of data from the listings on their website that they can look at. So we're going to talk about their predictions in this video and whether or not I think they're right or wrong. But first, my name is Liam O'Reilly. I'm a realtor here in the state of Vermont with Jerry Riley Real Estate. If you have any real estate needs, feel free to reach out to me directly. All of my contact information is in the description below. And let's get right into it here. So here's the article. Redfin predicts, I'm kind of cutting off the title here, but Redfin predicts 2024 will be the year home buyers catch a break with home prices falling and new listings rising. So, generally I agree with their overall sentiment. I do think listings are going to are going to rise, especially if we see lower mortgage rates or even mortgage rates around where they are today. Remember, in Vermont, the best mortgage rate you can get right now is around 6.375%. Now, nationally, they have it referenced at around 7%. So I guess you get a little bit better rate here in Vermont. Maybe we're lower risk borrowers. I'm not exactly sure why. But right now they have the interest rate at around 7%. And I think, if home prices stay the same or they drop slightly, you can see here, prediction one, home prices will fall 1%. So not a huge drop. Then we could see more affordability, which would be beneficial for everybody in the housing market. But let's talk about their first prediction here. So home prices will fall 1%. Prices are up around 3% this year in 2023. And this is what they're predicting. They're predicting quarter one of 2024 to be flat year over year, quarter two to be down, quarter three to be down, and then quarter four to also be flat. And I think where they're coming up with these numbers is that quarter two and quarter three were kind of boom quarters this year in 2023, where home prices rose significantly as interest rates were relatively low throughout the year. I purchased my home in June of 2023, and I locked in a rate of 5.5%, which is much higher than it was a few years ago, but much lower than you can get today. Now, what I disagree with is this prediction of quarter one having flat growth. And the reason why I disagree with that is actually because of the Redfin data. When we take a look at what's going on here, this is the week over week data chart showing the median sales price of throughout the past year. So the orange line here is 2023. And of course, we're in the last week of 2023. It's December 29th as I record this video. And you can see that median sales price year over year for this week is up 4.5%. It's up 3% throughout the entire year because it was lower. That orange line was lower than the red line of 2022 earlier this year. But why I think this graph shows a discrepancy between their prediction of 0% is because if you look at where the line is at now at 360,000, let's call it, that's going to be above the $350,000 level, median sales price level that we were at the beginning of 2023. So I think unless something is going to happen and we're going to all of a sudden see the median sales price drop from 365 down to 350 in a week, which I don't think is going to happen. I expect Q1 throughout the entire nation to remain relatively flat. Now let's go on to a few more predictions. Listings will tick up. Prediction two, listings will climb from the 2023 record lows as the mortgage lock-in rate effect eases. And I completely agree with this. I think if mortgage rates stay where they are, or maybe they come down a little bit to the high 5%, then all of a sudden people who have mortgages at 4.5% are going to start consider selling because the jump isn't that much for them. It's not as bad as giving up your 4.5% mortgage to purchase a 7.5 a home that's more expensive with a 7.5% mortgage. If we see rates come down to around 5% or so, that could really free up inventory, which would encourage more people to sell. Home sales will increase by 5% by the end of the year. I agree with this as well. 5% by the end of the year, I think that's completely reasonable. The first quarter, they're expecting the first quarter to be on pace for 4.1 million homes. I think, 2023 was a really low year for existing home sales. Not many people bought, not many people sold throughout the entire year. So an increase of 5% seems completely reasonable, especially if rates come down, so that more buyers and sellers can be active in the market. Let's move right along here. Prediction 4, mortgage rates will steadily decline but remain above 6%. Now, I think one caveat with all these predictions right here is I don't think Redfin is taking into account of what happens if the United States enters into a big recession. They're giving these predictions as if the economy is going to continue moving like it is right now, and that's not a guarantee. We certainly could see the economy continue to operate as it is right now with relatively low unemployment, and inflation easing. But there's also a good chance that we enter into a recession, we see unemployment tick up, which could bring rates right down to the bottom and really change this whole prediction here. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind, is that they're basing these predictions, the above price predictions, the new listing predictions, that rates slowly come down throughout the year, which it certainly could happen if the economy keeps moving along the way that it has been. But if something happens and we enter into a major recession, I think all of these predictions get thrown right out the window. So, mortgage rates above 6%, I disagree with this, I guess, just because, at least here in Vermont, mortgage rates are just above 6%. So this is what they're expecting. They're saying that for Q4, the average rate was 7.3%. Q1 is going to be 7%. I think it's going to be even lower nationally. I think it's going to be down in the high sixes. And then if we see rates continue to drop, people continuing to invest, investors, companies, countries investing in the 10-year treasury, then we'll see mortgage rates really decline as we move through 2024. But changes will come to the real estate industry. Prediction number 5. I completely agree that these lawsuits that happened in 2023 are going to shape the way that the real estate industry operates as we move into 2024. I think there's big changes coming in the real estate industry, and it's going to be, no one knows exactly how that's going to play out. As of right now, we haven't seen much change here in Vermont. I know other parts of the country are seeing changes already, so we'll just have to see how everything plans out. And then prediction number 6, renting will lose its stigma. And I mean, people aren't going to have a choice. If home prices are high, mortgage rates are, lower than they are today, but they're still relatively high, and there's not more housing inventory, then they're not going to have a choice but to rent their home. And then they go into politics. I'm not going to go into politics too much here, but Biden has a housing problem which could hurt his reelection bid. I'm just going to, kind of skip over that one. This is an important thing to note right here. They're predicting that prices will fall in some metros and rise in others. Now, this is something I talk a lot about on the channel, but there is no national housing market. Whatever's going on in your local market is going to differ drastically from what's going on here in Vermont, from what's going on in California or Texas. These are all different housing markets that behave differently, and their prices react differently. So what Redfin's expecting with their 1% national decline is that some metros, they're predicting the Northeast, some of these more stable environmental places where you don't have massive homeowners insurance because of the environmental concerns, things like that. Those markets are going to continue to rise, while other riskier markets, they specifically mentioned Florida, which saw a huge influx of people in the post-pandemic housing boom. They predict that Florida is going to go down and that some of these other markets are going to rise. Now, the last thing to note here, local governments will focus on housing affordability. And I think this is a must if we want housing prices to come down or more people to be able to afford homes. Local governments need to focus on the affordability encourage more building of both single family homes and multifamily properties so that housing costs can be eased. I mean, it's a simple supply and demand problem where there's a lot of people right now who want to buy a home and can't buy a home, especially not at the current prices. And so how are we going to get those prices down? If people are prices are high because people are still buying them even with these high interest rates, right? If there wasn't demand for housing right now, home prices would come down based on the current supply. So if we had more supply, if there was more building, that would, I think, in a lot of markets, bring prices down to a level that's affordable for people who want to get into real estate and want to own a home. So I think local governments really have no choice but to allow more housing in their localities. And that's something that we saw in 2023. I think it's something that we're going to continue to see as we move into 2024 because the demand for housing is so high and supply is so low. Now, really quickly, I just want to go through some of their predictions from 2023 just to see how things stack up, to see if they were right or they were wrong. They have 10 predictions in this article, so a little bit more than this year. But here we go. Home sales will fall to their lowest level since 2011. Yep, we basically saw that. Home sales hit a wall. There were not many transactions going on this year, and that's what they saw. That's what Redfin predicted. So the highlighted green is things that happened. Highlighted red are things that they got wrong. And this is for 2023. Now, of course, 2023 ends in a few days, so we know the results pretty much now. Prediction 2, mortgage rates will decline, ending the year below 6%. That didn't happen. Prediction number 3, home prices will post their first year-over-year decline in a decade. That didn't happen. Prices rose by 3%. The Midwest and Northeast will hold up the best as overall market cools. I think that's true. The Northeast in particular has held up really well as other parts of the country have seen year-over-year price declines. Prediction 5, rents will fall. We have not seen rents fall. Builders will focus on multifamily rentals. That's not true. When we take a look at multifamily housing starts, look at this. All the way on the right is what's going on right now. There's not that many new multifamily buildings being brought to the market or being started compared to years past. There's just less multifamily construction. Prediction 7, investor activity will bottom out in the spring and then rebound. I think that did happen. It's kind of up in the air with that one. Gen Zers will seek jobs and apartments in relatively affordable mid-tier cities. I think a lot of people are doing that. A lot of people can't afford to live in these expensive cities and they're moving away. Migration from one part of the country to another will ease. That is something that happened. There's less people moving away than there were the past 2 years during COVID. Rising disaster insurance costs will make extremely climate risky homes even more expensive. Absolutely. That's something that we definitely saw in 2023. More cities will follow Minneapolis's YIMBY, yes, in my backyard, essentially encouraging more housing. We have seen that in 2023. And then buyers agent commissions will rise slightly as fewer agents broker fewer deals at lower prices. I don't know what the stats are on agent commissions for 2023, but so I marked that one orange. But the point of showing those 2023 predictions is that not all of them came true. Obviously, right? Home prices did not fall for the first time in a decade. So when you're looking at Redfin or you're looking at any of these experts in the data and their predictions of what's going to happen, we really don't know what's going to happen in the overall housing market or in the US economy. So these predictions are a good place to go off of, but the truth is that nobody knows what will happen in 2024. Now, really quickly, I'm going to go back to the end of the predictions from Redfin here, and they offer 2 upside and downside scenarios based on what happens in the overall US economy. So they think that the 30-year fixed rate mortgage could drop into the 5% range if the economy falls into a recession. That's what they're saying in this top highlighted area. And the downside, they think mortgage rates could go up past 8% if the Federal Reserve keeps their Fed funds rate high, if we see higher inflation throughout 2024. I personally think that the upside scenario of rates dropping below 5% is something that we could see if we experience a recession. And Redfin also predicts that home prices right here, pushing prices up about 3% and sales up to about 5 million. So even though we enter a recession, and I completely agree with this, if we enter into a recession and we see mortgage rates drop significantly, that will push prices up because there's still more buyers out there than there are homes, existing homes at all. There's more buyers out there than homes that will be sold. So that would push prices up, especially if rates drop and more buyers can afford to purchase a property. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. What are your predictions for the 2024 housing market? Don't forget, all my contact information is in the description. Reach out to me if you have any real estate needs, and I'll see you in the next video.